My BF, 30 male, gave me, 25 female, an ultimatum. Him or my cat. I had been dating my boyfriend for 8 months, and while we lived in different cities due to our studies, we always talked about our future together. From the very beginning, I shared my dream of having a family that included pets, especially cats. He seemed on board, mentioning his past experience living with an ex who had a cat, and even expressing a desire to have a dog someday. So, when I finally rented my own apartment, I was excited to create a little family with him and a pet. I felt a bit lonely in my new place, so I decided to adopt a cat. I had always allowed pets to sleep in my bed growing up, so naturally, I let my cat join us in bed when my boyfriend visited. However, after just 2 nights, he complained that he couldn't sleep because of the cat's movements. He ended up sleeping on the couch, which was puzzling to me. I thought he would communicate his feelings more openly, but instead, he suggested breaking up if I didn't want to keep the cat off the bed. Not wanting to fight, I agreed to let the cat sleep on the couch during our weekends together. But the situation didn't improve. He began to express his frustration about the litter box and the occasional smell, even though I cleaned it promptly. When my cat had some digestive issues, it left a mark on the couch. And my boyfriend's anger escalated. I couldn't understand why he was taking it out on the cat. After all, it was just an animal. Whenever I tried to talk to him about it, he would brush me off, leaving a tense atmosphere between us. Things reached a boiling point after he had his wisdom teeth removed. I invited him over to recuperate, hoping to cook for him and make him comfortable. Unfortunately, my cat peed on the bed for the first time, likely due to my long hours at work. I immediately started cleaning, but my boyfriend was upset that I didn't prioritize making food first. That night, we ended up sleeping on the couch with the cat, and he expressed that he couldn't take it anymore. He said he wanted to go home to rest properly, which I understood, but I was still confused about his anger. The next day, he didn't respond to my messages and left my apartment with all his belongings. When I finally reached him, he told me he felt sick and needed to rest at home. When we met later, he admitted he wasn't ready to live with a cat, and despite his feelings for me, he couldn't handle having pets in the house. He insisted he didn't want me to choose between him and my cat, but it felt like that was the reality we were facing. I love my boyfriend and thought we had a solid future plan together, but now I'm torn. I've considered taking my cat to my parents, where I know he would be loved and cared for. I just can't fathom breaking up over a cat, yet I also don't want to lose my boyfriend. It's a painful situation, and I'm left wondering if there's any way to find a compromise or if I have to make a choice.
Am I the bad guy for calmly calling my brother-in-law a self-loathing POS at Thanksgiving dinner after years of jokes about my brother? Thanksgiving is often a time for family gatherings, laughter, and sharing delicious meals. However, for me, it turned into a pivotal moment that would change the dynamics of my family forever. I'm a 27-year-old woman, and I have a brother-in-law who has always had a knack for making uncomfortable jokes at my younger brother's expense. My brother, who is 22 and in the process of finishing his pre-med studies, seems to have his life all figured out. In contrast, my brother-in-law, who is 32, has been struggling to find his footing, working part-time while trying to launch various business ventures. For as long as I can remember, my brother-in-law has made these offhand comments, often comparing himself to my brother. It was as if he was trying to mask his insecurities with humor, but the jokes always landed flat, leaving an awkward silence in their wake. Each time, the family would chuckle nervously and move on, never addressing the underlying tension. That Thanksgiving, I was already feeling drained from a long day. I just wanted to enjoy a peaceful dinner without any drama, but halfway through the meal, my brother-in-law struck again. He made a comment about how my brother should just take over his life, since he seemed to have everything sorted out. I could feel the familiar discomfort wash over the table, but this time, something inside me snapped. Without raising my voice, I calmly responded, "You're a self-loathing person, and it's exhausting listening to you project your issues onto my brother every time we're together." The room fell silent. I continued eating, refusing to engage further. My sister immediately reacted, calling me rude and out of line. She explained that my brother-in-law only made those comments because he was struggling, and that it was hard for him to watch my brother succeed. The rest of the evening was filled with an uncomfortable tension. No one defended my statement, but they didn't stand up for me either. Later, my younger brother approached me privately and expressed his gratitude. He admitted that he had gotten used to the comments and learned to tune them out over the years. Hearing that made me feel even worse, realizing he had been quietly enduring this discomfort for so long. In the days that followed, my family remained upset with me. They claimed I had ruined Thanksgiving and embarrassed my sister. insisting that I should apologize to maintain peace. They argued that my words were cruel and that I should have shown more compassion. While I understood that my choice of words was harsh, I was also tired of pretending that everything was okay. As the situation unfolded, I learned more about my sister's relationship with my brother-in-law. It turns out that he had exhibited some troubling behaviors over the years. While there was no physical abuse, there were emotional and controlling tendencies that had caused my sister significant distress. She had confided in my mother early in their relationship, but had begged her not to tell anyone, fearing it would make things worse. My parents, wanting to protect her, had chosen to keep the peace, which explained their insistence that I apologize. After my comment at dinner, my brother-in-law reacted poorly. He went out drinking and, in a fit of rage, broke several things in their home. My sister was terrified and ended up calling my parents in the middle of the night, asking them to come get her. She is currently staying with them, and according to my brother, she's still in shock and barely speaking. This situation has forced my family to confront the reality of my sister's relationship. My parents are focused on her safety, and it's becoming clear that she is finally acknowledging how serious things have become. While I never intended for my words to lead to this, I can't help but feel that they may have opened the door for my sister to seek the help she needs. As I reflect on that Thanksgiving dinner, I realize that sometimes speaking the truth can be uncomfortable, but it can also be a catalyst for change. While my family may still be upset with me, I hope that my sister can find the strength to reclaim her life and happiness. Thanksgiving is a time for family, food, and, unfortunately, sometimes tension. I found myself in the middle of a situation that I had been quietly carrying for far too long. My brother-in-law had a knack for making jokes at the expense of my brother, and over the years, these comments had become increasingly hurtful. I had tried to brush it off, thinking it was just his way of being funny, but deep down, I knew it was wrong. As the holiday approached, I felt a mix of anxiety and determination. I wanted to enjoy the festivities, but I also wanted to stand up for my brother. When the moment came, I took a deep breath and calmly called my brother-in-law a self-loathing person during dinner. The room fell silent, and I could feel the tension in the air. I didn't expect fireworks, but I hoped it would finally make him reconsider his words. The aftermath was intense. My brother-in-law had a meltdown. He started drinking heavily, yelling and breaking things. All because he felt embarrassed by my comment. It escalated to the point where my sister, terrified, called our parents to pick her up. She had been living in a state of fear, and I had no idea just how deep the emotional abuse ran until that moment. Once she was safe at our parents' house, I went to see her after work, bringing takeout and comfort food. I wanted to create a safe space for her, to let her know she wasn't alone. But when I arrived, I could see she was shaken and overwhelmed. In a moment that broke my heart, she said, "If you would just apologize, he wouldn't be this mad. We could go back to normal." Hearing those words sent a chill down my spine. I realized she was minimizing everything that had happened, and it terrified me. I didn't want to challenge her in that fragile state, but I also knew I couldn't let her think that an apology would fix everything. I felt trapped between wanting to protect her and fearing that pushing too hard would drive her back to him. I spent the next few days wrestling with my thoughts. How could I support her without triggering defensiveness? Should I apologize just to keep the peace, or would that reinforce his control over her? I felt completely out of my depth. In the days that followed, I reached out for advice. I learned that the average number of attempts to leave an abusive partner is 7. It was a sobering realization that my sister might not be ready to walk away, even though she desperately needed to. I was reminded that sometimes those in abusive situations feel safer staying put rather than risking the unknown. The comments I received were enlightening. Many people emphasized the importance of unconditional love and support. They advised me not to apologize to my brother-in-law, as that was precisely what he had conditioned her to want. Instead, I needed to be a steady, safe presence in her life, showing her the difference between the chaos of her home and the calm of ours. As I continued to visit her, I made it a point to create a nurturing environment. I wanted her to feel the contrast between our family's love and her husband's volatility. I hoped that over time, she would recognize that she deserved better. The journey ahead was uncertain, but I was committed to being there for her, no matter what she decided. I knew that my role was to support her choices, even if that meant standing by while she navigated a difficult path. I just hoped that one day, she would see her worth and find the strength to break free from the cycle of abuse. In the end, Thanksgiving became a turning point for our family. It was a reminder of the importance of standing up for one another and the complexities of love and loyalty. I learned that sometimes, the hardest thing to do is to simply be there for someone, offering love and support without judgment. And while the road ahead may be long, I was ready to walk it with her, one step at a time. Am I the bad guy for not longer doing anything for my husband? My husband and I have been together for 9 years, and we're currently in marriage therapy, which has been ongoing for about 7 months. I've been contemplating whether to cancel our future sessions. We have a 2-year-old together, but before our child arrived, our relationship was quite happy. When our baby was just 2.5 weeks old, I was diagnosed with postpartum depression. I think I was struggling more with the isolation than anything else. We had just moved away from my mother's house, where we had been staying to save money for a home, and my husband decided to spring the move on me without any discussion. He only took 2 days off work after our baby was born, leaving me alone in an unfamiliar apartment surrounded by boxes. I felt terrified and irritable, and instead of recognizing my struggles, he chose to avoid me, spending hours with his friends outside our apartment every night. During that time, I felt abandoned. He loved our child and did what he could when he was home, but he was hardly ever there. Eventually, I became emotionally distant. I worked through my postpartum depression alone, and while I started to feel love for him again, the damage had been done. He suggested therapy, and I agreed. Things began to improve. He started taking accountability for his actions, and I felt more connected to him. However, a week ago, everything changed. I'm a stay-at-home mom, but also run an online shop that brings in about $900 a month. I spend around 2 hours a day on my business and dedicate the rest of my time to our child. I handle all the home necessities while he pays the bills. For months, he insisted he preferred this arrangement and that my contribution helped him tremendously. I now realize he may have been misleading me. On his day off, I asked him to watch our baby while I went grocery shopping. He seemed fine with it, but when I returned 2.5 hours later, he was furious. He had been trying to play a game with his friends online, but our baby was crying and interrupting him. After calming our child and putting away the groceries, I sat down on the couch and jokingly said, "I'm glad you see what I go through every day." He snapped, claiming the difference between us was that he actually works and that I didn't want to work. He suggested that if I truly wanted to contribute, I would find a real job. I was taken aback and pointed out that this was the first time I had ever left our child. He dismissed my feelings, saying I got breaks whenever I napped with our baby, which was untrue since our little one hadn't napped in months. After that confrontation, I took off my wedding ring and stopped doing things for him. I no longer did his laundry, plated his meals, or prepped his coffee for the morning. I stopped sending him updates and pictures of our child throughout the day and let the house get messy. He's made comments about how the house is always a mess, but I've chosen to ignore it. Yesterday, when he came home, I was already in bed with our child and didn't greet him. He picked up some of his trash and insisted we needed to talk, claiming I was pushing things too far. He argued that he didn't mean what he said and was just stressed from dealing with our baby. I told him the damage was done, especially considering how he had treated me for over a year. I didn't feel like he could just bounce back from that. He insisted that his comments didn't warrant a divorce and that he was sorry, but I couldn't even look at him. I'm left wondering if I want to continue this marriage at all. I, 24F, found out my boyfriend 25M is microcheating. How do I get the truth out of him? I'm a 24-year-old woman who has been in a relationship with my boyfriend, who is 25, for 10 years. In the early days, I wasn't the best partner. While I never cheated, I definitely took him for granted and didn't treat him with the respect he deserved. However, I've grown a lot since then. I'm now balancing a full-time job and school, which keeps me busy, but I always make time for him. We live together with my parents, so we see each other every day and share a bed every night. For the longest time, I felt secure in our relationship. He never gave me a reason to doubt him, but I've always struggled with insecurity, especially since he's not great at expressing his feelings. When I sought reassurance, he would often tell me that I shouldn't need it. In 2023, I started feeling a pit in my stomach. Sensing something was off, I decided to check his phone for peace of mind, but when I tried to enter our anniversary as his passcode, it didn't work. He had changed it without telling me. When I confronted him, he insisted that it was his phone and that I shouldn't invade his privacy. This really threw me off, especially since he knew my passcode and I had nothing to hide. Fast forward to March 2025, one night while we were at a gas station, I found a black journal in his glove compartment. Curiosity got the better of me, and I flipped through it. What I discovered shattered me. He had written about telling a coworker that he was single and how surprised she was, given how handsome he is. There were entries about a red-headed girl he admired, detailing how beautiful he thought she was and how he loved her smile. He even mentioned giving her chocolates and wondering where she was when her car wasn't at home. When he returned to the car, I lost it. He was furious that I had invaded his privacy, but I felt completely betrayed. I had questioned him about our relationship before, and he always brushed my concerns aside, making me feel insecure. We fought for days, and I told him I couldn't be with him if he had feelings for someone else. He promised to stop talking to her and to leave her alone. However, a few days ago, I felt that familiar unease creeping back, while he was asleep. I took his car keys to look for that journal again. To my dismay, it was gone, replaced by a new one. I discovered that from November 9th until now, he was still writing about her, expressing feelings for her that he never shared with me. He wrote things like, "I would love to see the sunlight reflect off her eyes," and "seeing her smile made it all worth it." Nothing had changed. He still had feelings for her, and it hurt to realize he never spoke about me in that way. I'm at a loss for what to do next. I want closure and to understand why he feels this way and what has changed between us. I've put so much effort into our relationship, yet it feels like I'm getting nothing in return. I attempted to bring this up a couple of days ago, but he insisted he didn't have feelings for her and that he wasn't writing about her anymore. I could tell he was lying. I struggle with keeping my emotions in check. So I want to approach him carefully without blowing up. I love him, but it's clear he doesn't feel the same way about me. I feel foolish for wanting to stay with someone who clearly has eyes for someone else. I just need advice on how to get the truth and the closure I desperately seek.